Most history books tell you empires fall because of wars or corruption. That's true, but it's not the whole story. The real reason almost every empire collapses is money, specifically, the way they destroy it while pretending everything's fine. Rome, Spain, the Dutch Republic, Britain, they didn't collapse by accident. They collapsed because they spent more than they could afford. They borrowed, they debased their currency, they lost trust. Money is power, always has been. Empires know this. Control the currency, control trade, control armies. The Dutch Republic mastered this. Amsterdam became the financial capital of the world. The VOC, a private company, wielded more power than many countries. Spain did it with silver, Britain with the pound, Rome with gold. The lesson: whoever controls money controls the system. Every empire eventually overextends. Promises are made that cannot be kept. Taxes alone can't pay for it. Debt piles up, and then the money breaks. Rome taxed citizens to the bone. Spain crushed silver miners. Britain taxed colonies into rebellion. When taxes fail, rulers borrow. At first, it works. But once debt runs wild, the system becomes a trap. Ordinary people suffer, while the elite continue to profit. That's when empires turn to debasement, the oldest trick in the book. Rome clipped coins. Spain flooded Europe with silver. Why? Because invisible taxes are easier than visible ones. People don't notice immediately, but their money loses value. Merchants cheat, prices rise, savings vanish, governments can still pay soldiers and bureaucrats. Occasionally today, we see echoes of this in inflation or central bank policies. War accelerates the rot. It's a perfect cover for destruction. Rome fought endless border wars. Britain burned through 2 world wars. Spain fought multiple fronts at once. Wars are urgent, unavoidable, and profitable for a few. Borrow, print, debase. Meanwhile, the population suffers, and the illusion of stability continues. The Dutch Republic was the first empire built on finance. It wasn't the largest, it didn't have the strongest army, but it had money, and the system kept the elite in control. Amsterdam banks, VOC stock, the guilder, all underwritten by debt. Wars with England and France drained resources. The Fourth Anglo-Dutch War destroyed trade routes. Debt spiraled. The empire didn't fail morally, it failed financially. History isn't just about the past, it's about patterns. Empires that rely on debt and fiat currency collapse. Britain nearly went bankrupt after World War II. America today runs high deficits, with the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Bitcoin, gold, and other forms of hard money resist this system. Small financial decisions at the top affect everyone, even if you don't notice it right away. Empires don't fail by accident. They fail because they destroy the foundation that made them powerful money. Rome, Spain, the Dutch Republic, Britain, debt, overreach, war, debasement, and loss of trust. Citizens suffer, elites profit. Understanding this pattern isn't just history. It's a lens to see today's financial world. Power is temporary, money is real, and when the money fails, the empire falls. Let's dive into the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War, 1780-1784. On paper, a naval clash. In reality, a financial catastrophe. Dutch trade routes were blocked by England. Goods rotted in harbors. The VOC, once a global powerhouse, couldn't pay debts. Banks froze credit. Investors panicked. Ordinary citizens were caught in the middle. How do you run an empire when the money simply disappears? The Dutch found out the hard way. The Dutch government borrowed heavily, issuing bonds with promises of high returns. Few trusted them. Ordinary people were pressured to buy. Wealthy elites quietly moved money abroad. Meanwhile, ships, warehouses, and plantations were sold off at fire sale prices. Each sale solved one problem but shrank the empire's future income. Money that had once flowed effortlessly now dried up. The illusion of control persisted, but the foundation of power was cracking. To pay soldiers and administrators, the government minted coins with less silver. Inflation crept in, bread, rent, and daily goods soared in price. Merchants took advantage of the debased currency, pocketing the difference. Ordinary people felt it first. Meanwhile, the elite continued directing trade and finance, insulated from the chaos. The Dutch Republic, once a rival to Britain, was losing its grip, all because of money mismanagement. The war didn't just damage trade, it broke trust. Creditors refused loans, banks hesitated, merchants panicked, Every transaction became riskier. Shipping slowed, and global commerce stumbled. The Dutch government faced impossible choices: keep borrowing at ever higher rates or sell more assets. Either way, ordinary citizens bore the brunt of the economic strain. Soldiers went unpaid, workers struggled, and poverty grew quietly behind the headlines. This isn't just Dutch history. Britain faced a similar trap after both world wars. In 1918, debt skyrocketed from hundreds of millions to over £7 billion. After World War II, debt reached 2.5 times GDP. To survive, Britain sold overseas assets, depleted gold reserves, and borrowed from the US. Ordinary citizens endured rationing, high taxes, and shrinking purchasing power. The elite directed global finance while everyone else suffered. Modern parallels are easy to see. Governments today borrow trillions and run huge deficits, relying on central banks to prop up currencies. Inflation quietly eats away at savings. Ordinary people notice in grocery bills, rent, and daily expenses. Meanwhile, the elite continue to spend and invest, insulated from the consequences. The lesson from history: financial overextension comes first. Political and military decline follows, inevitably. The Dutch Republic never fully recovered. The VOC, once the most powerful trading company in the world, was dissolved in 1799. Amsterdam remained a financial hub, but global dominance was gone. Debt, war, and debasement had destroyed the foundation of power. The lesson: wealth and influence don't last if money isn't managed. Ships, spices, and trade networks mean nothing when your credit collapses and investors flee. Power depends on trust in money. Let's zoom in on one particular aspect: debasement. The government minted coins with less silver or copper to fund expenses. It seemed like a clever trick, but the effect was devastating. Prices rose. People noticed. Merchants cheated, paying out less and charging more. Trust eroded faster than anyone expected. This is a pattern repeated across centuries. Rome, Spain, Britain, empires think they can print their way out, but people always feel it first. Wars accelerate this decay. The Dutch fought England and France, Britain fought 2 world wars, Rome fought endless border conflicts. Each conflict created enormous spending pressure. Armies, supplies, fortifications, everything costs money. Borrowing becomes necessary. Debasement follows. Citizens go hungry. Inflation rises. Governments scramble to maintain the illusion of control. The richer you are, the less it affects you, but ordinary people pay the price with every coin. Let's talk about the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War in more detail. The Dutch fleet was stretched thin, trying to protect global trade routes. England had superior ships and resources. Dutch merchants panicked, unloading goods at a loss. The VOC had once funded entire armies through profits from spice trade. Now it couldn't even pay interest on debts. The financial collapse was silent but complete. By the time the war ended, Amsterdam's banks were permanently weakened. Debt and borrowing were the empire's chains. Every loan seemed like salvation at first. But as interest mounted, ordinary citizens ended up footing the bill. Soldiers went unpaid. Taxes rose. Bread prices doubled. Trade slowed. Every failed decision compounded the next. This isn't unique to history. Even today, governments borrow trillions, promising prosperity while future generations carry the weight. Ordinary people still feel the consequences first, just like in 18th century Holland. Post-war, the Dutch tried to recover through trade, but England and France dominated the seas. The Dutch couldn't regain lost ground. Financial mistakes from years prior continued to haunt them. Banks hesitated to lend. Investments slowed. Creditors demanded higher rates. Ordinary people faced higher costs, scarcity, and uncertainty. The empire could no longer act independently. Its fate was decided not by morality, nor even by the war itself, but by the mismanagement of money. Why does this pattern repeat across history? Borrow, overspend, debase, lose trust. Rome clipped coins. Spain flooded Europe with silver. Britain printed pounds. Ordinary people lost purchasing power. Elites often survived, insulated from the chaos. The empire collapses because the foundation of trust in money and credit crumbles. This is the real engine behind decline. Not morality, not wars, not invasions. Money drives everything. Even when the Dutch Republic tried to modernize, the damage was done. Investors were cautious, credit was expensive, merchants hesitated to expand. The VOC's dissolution was inevitable. Amsterdam remained a hub, but dominance was gone. Empires can appear strong for decades, even while their financial base is rotting. The lesson: don't just look at armies, fleets, or trade. Look at the balance sheets, the currency, the debt, the trust. That's where power truly lives and dies. Modern parallels are impossible to ignore. Governments today borrow endlessly, print money, and rely on central banks to stabilize currencies. Inflation quietly erodes savings. Ordinary people notice in rent, groceries, and daily life. Meanwhile, elites continue spending and investing. Debt creates dependence, just like the Dutch once relied on England or Britain on the United States. The pattern is centuries old, but the stakes are the same. Trust in money determines who survives. In the end, the Dutch Republic is a warning. Money is the true engine of power. Ships, trade, fleets, armies. They are tools. But if the currency collapses, if debt spirals, if trust erodes, the empire crumbles. Rome, Spain, the Dutch Republic, Britain, all teach the same lesson. Watch how money is treated today, and you'll understand the invisible rules of power. Ignore it at your own peril. The collapse of an empire is never sudden. It's built quietly, over decades.